Have you ever consumed a story that struck a chord with your soul? It might have made you cry, or smile, laugh with joy, or become silent with somberness. It contains a rich world filled to the brim with multifaceted characters, displaying such realistic aspects of humanity you can't help but root for them, through triumphs and failures. One of them dies and it's unbearably tragic, but the story must move on. There are more adventures to be... Oh man, another's dead? That's so tragic, seeing such a young... Wait, again? Not this character, he was the best one, and imperative to the story. Don't... Gosh dang it, I said wait! Why is she dead? The whole point of her arc was overcoming sorrow and surviving only for you to kill her a second later? Okay, can we kill this character? Of course she's the one to live, the little brat. And oh no, everyone on that super corrupt rock died. How tragic? And to zombies? When did zombies become a thing here? What the frick happened to this story? How did this series go from one I considered close to a masterpiece to an utter joke? The quality of the writing took such a steep nosedive you'd assume it's competing at the Olympics for the diving category. I bet most of you didn't even know there was a second season for the show. Wait, what's that? A third's been announced? Oh, sweet heaven, help us. So, let's try to break down what happened to this poor story. Full disclosure, I only watched all the way up to a little bit of season 2 before I completely dropped the series, fearing what I loved about the series would be further desecrated. If this has changed and the quality of early season 1 is somehow back, let me know and I may consider giving the manga a read rather than watching the show. Anyways, moving on. Let's first focus on what the show did right, or at least started right. The premise of an immortal being walking through life with no knowledge of anything, capable of transforming into practically everything, is nothing short of fascinating. It opens up the opportunity for Fushi and the audience to see life through so many unique lenses, allowing for both flexibility in both story and character development for Fushi. A never-ending character arc in the making as he learns new lessons and things about the world around him. The first arc of the show is devastating, showcasing the wrestlings of a nameless boy with his fate to live alone in a frosted wasteland with nothing but his wolf. A wolf who's been replaced by Fushi. The boy's endless optimism is constantly contrasted by his ultimately hopeless situation. It's a deeply personal arc with no overarching premise or story, just a tale of a boy and his immortal wolf. He takes up his courage and sets out to find more people, only for his dreams to be rebuked by a harsh reality. He's not going to make it, is he? His last words to Fushi are, a strangely unique request that only someone like Fushi could possibly fulfill. This short arc sets the precedent for the series. This is a deeply intimate story about people witnessed through the eyes of an immortal. The arcs that follow continue this small scale and personal storytelling, gradually building upon the world, introducing more characters and deeper plot threads. Fushi meets March, Perona, Piorin, Gugu, and more. All people who teach him different things and showcase their perspectives on life. He witnesses their struggles, achievements, lives, and sometimes even their deaths. Each arc Fushi develops as a character until the story shifts focus. This is where I think the story ultimately destroyed itself. The author of To Your Eternity is Yoshitoki Oyama. You may be familiar with her other popular works such as A Silent Voice, which showcases her masterful writing when it comes to characters and interpersonal dynamics. Notice this skill in her early arcs of the show, but it is seemingly abandoned in the arc that has Tonari in it. In the arc Tonari is introduced, her backstory, while tragic, feels lacking. So much so I genuinely forgot what it was. Like if it was an element added into the story rather than being a focal point. The story shifts from focusing on characters to exploring plot. This can be seen with how most of the characters introduced in this arc get little to no development. The author pivots from writing what she knows to something new, a plot-focused story. And her plot is kind of weak. We have Fushi fighting against the faceless and characterless knockers, and are reintroduced to a despised villain that refuses to die or stay out of the story. Like, look at this. How does this chick have more plot armor than a shonen protagonist with the power of friendship? Plot threads, rather than feeling like they were sewn together, feel forced. It left me disinterested. The arc wasn't good. But that's only a piece of what left me so disappointed in the show. Before we continue on, I'd like to talk about a concept known as promises and payoffs. Promises are what the author tells us this story is going to be about and the things that will happen in the future. And payoff is how that comes to fruition. This can be applied to plot, tone, character arcs, and more. Attack on Titan promises us its tone through its brutal beginning. One Piece, its plot focus through Gold D. Roger charging everyone to find the One Piece. And Vinland Saga, its character arcs by showing us where Thor's story ends and Thorfinn's begins, needing to become more like his father. Now, any promise or story structure can be subverted. You can make a promise but then actually deliver something else as an author. But that comes with the caveat, as best explained by Brandon Sanderson, a professional fantasy author and professor.
There's certain things people expect in a satisfying story. And yes, you can subvert those. And most of the ways you would subvert those just makes your story unsatisfying.
So when subverting the audience's expectations, you typically need to provide something that is more engaging, impactful, or enticing to the audience. A reason to feel like they weren't betrayed. The reason I bring all this up is because the promises and payoffs in To Your Eternity are subversive garbage. Perona's character strikes rock bottom upon losing March and attempts to take her own life, but is stopped by Fushi. She doesn't go through with it. The setup and promise being that she'll need to go on a journey to find the strength to live and move forward. Right? No! She gets tortured and murdered alongside her clan by the person who killed March. The person she let go. Her death is also randomly revealed in a fight. What was the point of Fushi saving her from herself if the author intended to kill her off in such a brutal way? We didn't get to see her development at all. We go from her wanting to take her own life, being rescued, and then killed off screen. Or how about Gugu? He had a romance promise, training arcs to become stronger, and pivotal character dynamics intertwined with his character. What were the payoffs for these? His romance comes to fruition? Oh, that's great! Yeah, seconds before he dies. Oh, that's less great. That's not satisfying at all. For years, he's been training to fight the Knockers, and in his first fight since training, he's killed off by a building falling on him. Oh, also, they could have climbed out right here rather than running into the actual collapsing building. There was literally nothing above them. You can literally see the sunlight above them. Mind you, he won his first fight with a Knocker when he was literally a child and absolutely wasted. Gugu was set up to take on this adventure with Fushi as he continued to grow, and that's cut off and wasted. With his death, his importance to Fushi's development is now thrown out the window, and holy crap do you feel the consequences with that, with how unbearable the characters are that replaced him, and how much Fushi's character regresses. Fushi's setup of becoming more human is cast aside as he becomes a gloomy castaway. He even lives in the frickin' ocean as a fish for several years, abandoning humanity. They try to set him up as this cold, brooding elite character, yet the first human connection he has in years is his two greatest enemies literally fused into one. And after some initial skepticism, he decides to trust them. How stupid have you made Fushi? Of course they poisoned you! They've done it like 8 times! From a writing perspective, when deciding to kill off a character, you are sacrificing the potential of that character for the impact of their death. Gugu's death leads us to an absolutely horrible arc and a complete regression of Fushi's character. Gugu, who has had more development than any other character, and, in my opinion, is the best character in the show, is pushed to the side and given a pretty cheap death to move Fushi to the next arc. How would things have changed if he actually survived the battle, traveled with Fushi, and continued as brothers watching out for one another as they grow through various trials and tribulations? This series would have taken a completely different direction, and we'd have another character besides Fushi to hold on to for our development. When I began To Your Eternity, death was tragic, sad, and meaningful. We missed the characters because their potential had been cut off, and they shaped the future of the story through their lasting impact. But by the end, death felt cheap, void, and expected. Like the author was just trying to manipulate me into liking the characters just to attempt to deliver a gut punch later. But when you know a gut punch is coming, it doesn't have the same impact. Especially when I don't care about the characters. death itself has become the focus, the point, removing hope from the situation. The shift to plot storytelling left behind the inspiring aspects of the characters. If you kill off all the characters I care about, replace them with less compelling counterparts, and completely change the focus of the story, it's not a mystery why I'm no longer invested. The promises and payoff aspects were constantly unsatisfying or downright maddening. Romance was set up just to be tragic, life saved to be taken later, motivation restored to be cast aside, character built up just to be abandoned. For me, this was not a sudden death to the story, but a tight squeeze leading to suffocation. Until I didn't care anymore. Which surprised me because, man, I really loved the beginning of this story. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read them all. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving me a like and subscribing to the channel. I've got a ton of cool videos planned. Also, give me a follow on TikTok and Instagram. For some reason, TikTok absolutely hates my account and I'm literally getting 0 views, so any help would be greatly appreciated. Thanks again, and I'll catch you next time.